computer.
Okay.
Good afternoon. This is Joelle, and I am the Viberarian. I am here to elevate, enlighten, and empower. And as I always say, I start this process on the inside and then carry it outward. Okay, so I am joined again today for a conversation with my dear sister and friend, yogi, wellness coach, and all around awesome woman, Tiffany Campbell of I Love My Temple Yoga and Wellness Center. Tiffany, I'm so glad you're back again with me today.
I love talking with you. I love being here with you. I always thoroughly enjoy our conversations.
Absolutely, me too. So last week we got together because we actually have been meeting many weeks now as I was participating in the wellness coaching program with Temple Yoga. We're getting ready to do another fall detox too. And so I'm very excited about that. My first detox was very, very valuable. So
Good.
as part of our ongoing dialogue every week and accountability and all of the things that coaching provides, we meet every week for an update on what I've done and for you to give me guidance, pointers, tips, and an outline for the next week. And a couple weeks ago, my assignment was to meditate on the topic of judgment and see where that energy was arising. And it's quite interesting because I got a 1-2 punch, as I said last week, because the day after you said that, I was doing a reading with myself. And of course, then judgment came right on out.
Right on out.
We had a great discussion about that last week. So we're here again because, of course, Spirit got me again, right? Okay, so last Friday, we were talking, and my assignment was to look at, in my meditation time, gratitude. And so I was to have a gratitude practice, which I already do, but you were encouraging me to look at it more intensely and with more mindfulness, bring it to the forefront of my focus. So would you share a little bit about, your, gratitude, your own gratitude practice? As I said before, you do this from the inside out too. You were in your meditation and you got the things that you receive for your clients from that as well. And I know you referenced at least a couple times this week your gratitude journal. So I know that you do that as well. So share with me a little bit about your gratitude.
Well, it's interesting because I guess in these times, I heard somebody call it a worldwide timeout. And I'm like, it sometimes feels like that, but then sometimes it feels like everything is happening at once. And I know we all collectively, are feeling that energy of that you put so eloquently in your reading this week about justice and just what all is happening around us and how, the world can feel like it's just swirling all at once. And I think, it can be overwhelming. And so for me, what grounds me often and grounds me daily is my gratitude practice. It kind of gives me the opportunity to quiet that noise that we see and we feel and we're constantly being bombarded with. And it gives me the opportunity to also find things that I'm thankful for in the midst of all of the chaos. And so I really had to lean very heavily this week on my gratitude practice myself. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting that that was what came up for you last week and how we talked about the need to really focus on being grateful for all that we're given. Because in this time, it can often seem like we're always coming from a lack space. We don't have enough. We don't have enough justice. We don't have enough peace. We don't have enough love. We don't have enough acceptance. And then when we stop and we really look at that and say, well, what am I grateful for? Mm-hmm. Right now in this moment, what am I grateful for? What can I give thanks for? And that is really how, your gratitude practice, I feel and have been able to utilize it to help ground me in these moments.
So funny because it was last week prior to this tumultuous week that we've experienced. And as you said, like really needing to have something to ground into when
Mm-hmm.
everything feels very unstable and lots of
Yes.
things that are that we don't want to stay as they are. We want there to be change. So how do you stay in that change moment? So it's interesting how you talked about this, and you'll see why in just a moment, because I actually drew 3 cards the day after our reading. And so when
Yay.
the message came in, and as it was right on time, but I was thinking I was going to edit out one of the cards today just for length of time, but then you
Mm-hmm.
did hit on it. So I'm going to share with you exactly why. So we're going to have to do it, and I have to honor what Spirit says. So the first, as you know, I use Oracle cards as a way to connect with messages from Spirit. I also receive my own guidance through my senses, but I just love cards, and I think the images are beautiful, and there's a great deal of value to the creative work and craft that people bring into these beautiful decks. So the one that I was using is the Oracle of the Seven Energies, which
Yeah, I
is a
love that one.
beautiful deck. 7 is all about divine feminine energy, the 7 colors of the rainbow. You know, there's so much with 7 being just a beautiful number. So I love this deck. And of course, the first card that came out in my
I'm so
reading
excited. I'm like, I feel
is,
like I should do a drum roll.
I know, right? Quieting the mind. Oh, and I
Yes.
just got a bling on my thumb.
Yes.
That,
It was
right?
like, ding,
Right. Quieting the mind. And look
light
at
bulb.
how enlightened she is, right? You
Yes.
see this gorgeous crown chakra, the high heart, all the way lit down into the flowered lotus blossom.
Love it.
Love it, right? So quieting the mind, that's the first
Quieting the
step,
mind.
right, in the process. So this is card number 32. Now in numerology, 5s are all about change.
Yes.
So as we know, we are very much in transient time. So we're
Yes.
hoping to move into being the change that we want to see in the world. So quieting the
Absolutely.
mind from all of the chatter of what if, oh my gosh, what does this mean? What's going to happen? All the things that are bombarded at us that we have to think about on any given day. To find that space of stillness within is challenging,
Absolutely.
but it's absolutely important. And of course, you know, yoga is a wonderful way to connect with the breath and the body. But
Yes.
people don't have time, honestly, to go commit to something, especially right now, because people are juggling home life and work life very differently, all within the confines of their
Of
space.
the home.
Yeah.
And teaching. They're teaching too.
Yes. Well, finding quiet when everybody's at home now, and there's TVs in one room and there's kids in the other room and Zoom for work in the other room, and then TV news on in the evening and food preparation. Quieting the mind is super challenging. You
It
know?
is. I will interject really quickly and say I remember when my kids were little, and you know that I chose to put them in online school. But even prior to that, when they were in on-ground school, one of the things we always had as a family was a meditation practice. When we came home from our day together, I'm coming from work, they're coming from school, one of the first things we would do is have quiet time, and we would take our time and meditate, just change the energy of the days that we've had. Maybe, you know, they had challenges in school that they needed to address. Sometimes it was just the over anxiousness of having been to school all day, or the disappointment of certain things happening in school that weren't quite what they wanted. And so we would always have a meditative practice as a family, and we would each go into our separate spaces and we would just take a few minutes. And I remember my son's kindergarten teacher, no, it's his first grade teacher. She was like, I ain't never seen a first grader meditate before. She said one day, my oldest son, Sky, at that time, he was overwhelmed in school, and he told her, I need a minute. And he went into a corner in the classroom and started to meditate. And she said, I ain't never seen a 6-year-old meditate before.
Wow, that's awesome.
Finding those moments if you set that time and you set that intention within your home, you can find it.
Well, and then you start to seek it. Once you got it and you know what it's like to be in that still space and that quiet, it can feel like things are just so, and then it's like he said, you know, I need a moment. Because it's like needing water, right? Like you don't realize that you're thirsty or dehydrated or starving for it until you start drinking it and you realize, oh, I've been off. So once you start meditating, you realize, oh, I was living with all of this excess energy
all day,
that I manage differently now that I've moved into a meditation practice. So
absolutely,
a lot of people talk about the challenge of quieting the monkey mind. You know, I will definitely come back and probably have another discussion about like finding your space in terms of meditation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I want to come back around for that. But
yes, let's do it.
Yeah. So in this guidance, it says here, life is chaotic, busy, loud, frenetic, and overwhelming. Okay. Some days, all that noise is like the roar of thunder echoing around you, and it feels as if you're being pummeled by a rainstorm. Isn't this why we take vacations? To get away to somewhere peaceful? And how many of us are like in vacation deficit right now?
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yes.
In spite of the surrounding din of the world, today you need to slow down and find a bit of peace. So go ahead and take a deep breath right now.
Yes.
Make a commitment to be still, if only for 5 minutes. Count your breaths and be mindful of every one of them. Know that you have all the time in the world to do the things that need doing. Everything is perfect as it is. Our core beliefs about the world originate in our thoughts and feelings, which then become our perceptions. If our thoughts are all over the place, that is how we will experience the outer world. But what if the outer world didn't matter at all? What if at our center, there were a place that is always calm, where the mind doesn't have a million things to say, where problems and challenges aren't nearly as important as we think they are? Today requires you to take an internal break and go to that silent space to regroup. Meditate on the stillness within, choose a peaceful mind and nothing else. You will be amazed by how easily everything falls into place once you do.
Once you do.
Once you do.
Yes.
I was like, okay, Spirit, so let me make sure that I'm getting my quiet space in. My coach said it, and my higher coach said it. So, okay, let's seek that stillness and the silence. So the card that I was going to skip over,
okay,
I have to laugh because it is rooted in abundance.
Oh.
How many times in the last 2 weeks have the word rooted, right? Rooted. I know you've said it to me a couple times. I think it came up in our Let's Vibe session as well.
Yes.
You know, I've got this guidance for myself. And of course, Sierra's song Rooted came out like a month ago, and we were feeling that ACL rooted, right? So talking about rooted, you were just saying like finding that groundedness in the midst of a storm. When you've gone into that still heart, you know what I'm saying, then you become not impervious, because I don't think we're impervious. We're not meant to be, right? We are meant to be feeling, empathetic beings, compassionate beings, where our emotional body is meant to be involved with stuff, just not constantly, right?
Expressed in a healthy way, and expressing it in a healthy way comes from that quiet space. Because when we're taking that time, and a lot of people I think have that misconception that quiet time means you shouldn't be thinking. No, quiet time means that you're intentional about how those thoughts impact you. And so understanding that our thoughts can manifest physically as well, So if it's a constant disarray, it's going to show up somewhere in our bodies because they're not separate things. And so I think a large part of finding that quiet time is about saying to yourself, I'm stepping away for a moment. I'm just going to listen. Instead of constantly thinking or talking, I'm going to just listen, open my ears and listen to my heart, listen to my mind for a moment, and just allow it to be what it is, and putting things into proper perspective. So then when we come back out, our emotional self is able to emote in a way that's going to be much more in line with that peace that we just found. And it doesn't mean that the words aren't going to be, stern if they need to be stern, or forceful if they need to be forceful, or whatever the emotions are. However, it's all about how we connect with that peace and then we carry it into our daily lives.
And you won't run away with your thoughts. Like once you've observed it from a still place, then you say, okay, I'm really stressed because this keeps coming up. I'm ruminating on this thing. So let me, instead of just running away with the stress and being in the, okay, well, what is going to happen? And then it leads you away. You sit here and observe the chitter chatter over here that's saying, and over here that's saying this, but you do it from that centered space instead of following it. And then realizing, wait a second, I didn't have to go down all that road. Maybe I just needed to go down that road for 15 minutes, but instead I went down it 3 hours because my mind had ran away with me and I was following instead of being grounded.
Exactly.
And then I approached it differently when I
and I agree. And not only that, just saying to yourself, what part of this is fear? What part of this is fear? Because a lot of times the other thing that happens is fear then will have you on a 3-hour journey. It'll have you on a week's journey. It'll have you on a yearly journey. And before you know it, all of your stressors, everything is rooted in your fears. And what ends up happening is then you've taken fear on over your faith, over your belief, over your connection to your abilities, your trust in yourself to overcome, your trust in yourself to be resilient, your trust in yourself to understand that everything the mind says ain't true. And that every thought that comes in our mind sometimes don't manifest in that form. Right. And so that taking those moments really allows you to align with the fact that, hey, this is fear. This is not the faith in myself that I know to be true. And that, I think, is what you need when you take those moments. So being rooted really is about rooted in trust for self, trust in your abilities to overcome, and understanding that you've done it before and you can do it again. Because I'm sure none of us, all of us have had something we've had to overcome.
Right.
So being rooted means, oh, I've overcome things before. This also is something I can overcome.
Absolutely. And the storm, right?
And the storm, yes.
Storm, right? When you're rooted, then that's the other thing, the external, right? So you said our mind can run away with us, but then other people's thoughts and projections and goals and things stated to be important can also then drag us along if we allow it, or we can, you know how it is when people see a crowd running. I learned in college, when folks start running, you just start running. You don't ask why they're running. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Where's everybody going? What's wrong, right? So we can get very caught up in the external flow as well. Yes. And our mind can be overly influenced by those external things as well. But when you come back into that still small voice inside.
And again, like you said, being rooted means being rooted in what's for you. Because again, those outside influences will tell you all kinds of things that aren't true. And then the mind will connect with some of those things, so being grounded, being rooted, giving yourself the opportunity to have those moments gives you the opportunity to sift through what is for me, what am I here for? What is my purpose, and how do I do the work I'm here to do? And that has nothing to do with what anybody else says.
Right. Which is other people's opinion of me is none of my business.
What was the one we talked about earlier this week when I said, I saw a quote that said, never take advice from someone, never take criticism from someone you would not ask for advice from. Which is, yeah. So why are we so attached to other people's criticisms if we're not even asking their opinion in the first place?
Okay. Rooted. Okay, let's be rooted. I think at our age, late 40s, we have a different sense of rootedness, quite frankly, that, I'm very grateful for that in terms of my life experience that has helped me crystallize through that experience, and to have been forced to go within many, many times. And you definitely learn, but at this point, you start to move away from those things.
You're like, oh, that ain't for me.
No.
Right on that one.
I'm good. So here we have the rooted. Let's look here and see, of course, beautiful card.
Oh, trees.
Of abundance. Okay.
Yes.
This card signals you pay attention to how you are anchored in the story of your life. Trust that you will be taken care of. The world is full of limitless potential and will nourish you according to your beliefs, regardless of temporary outer conditions. You are not a victim of life. Life happens for you, not to you, even if you sometimes slip into that way of thinking. If you are grounded and internally steadfast, nothing can uproot you, and you have the ability to manifest your intentions with ease. The message here is simple. Your life is safe and secure, and your intentions are coming to fruition. All your hopes and dreams are firmly grounded and taking root so that you can reach for the stars in your life and expand your dreams further than you can imagine. Everything in the material world is a reflection of your everything in the material world is a reflection of your interior world. You are unstoppable and unshakable because you believe that you are abundant. Know that you can easily move from merely surviving to thriving when you pay attention to staying grounded. If you find yourself in ungrounded thinking, now is the time for radical trust. Growth never follows a straight line. You will manifest what you need when you need it. A tall, healthy tree doesn't need to hold on to the ground for dear life. It knows it will not fly away with the wind because its roots are planted deep in the earth.
Absolutely. Okay. And I love that abundance part, because that's what we didn't talk about. The fact that life is working for us all the time, but we get so focused on what we don't have and what we don't, that lack or limitation type of thinking. And then we wonder why it keeps reflecting, but that's what we're internalizing. And if more and more people, my prayer is always that more and more people understand that you control the narrative, that if you come from a space of gratitude, if you understand you have an abundance of things to be grateful for, and that you control that level of abundance to the degree that it manifests, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And the readings that I've shared just in the last week, several readings have all talked about your interior state and how much it has to do with then how you're experiencing that world, which is just all the more reason why you better get intimate with your intimate space
Yes.
You know, as much as we want to get intimate with other people, you know what I'm saying? We should want to be that much more intimate.
Shall be wanting to get intimate with other people.
Right? But see, the abundance also, you know, not having enough time. I don't have enough time to meditate. I don't have enough time to do this. We don't have enough time to cook. We have to eat, you know, I mean, like all these things really, when you shift, and one thing that this uh, response to the quarantine has done is forcibly change people out of their time constructs in terms of what they had to do. Now that can look crazy for some people and it's looked very open for other people, but it certainly makes you have to assess differently, very carefully, what your time is allocated to.
What your time is allocated to, how you've been allocating your time. It was so interesting. Right before we had this reading, I'm doing grading, and one of my students said in her self-care project, because we have a self-care project going on right now, and in her self-care project, she said that, you know, in this response to what's happening, I focus more internally. And I realized that before I was always saying, I got to do schoolwork. I got to focus on my job. I've got to do this. I've got homework assignments. I got this, I got that. And she was saying how that during her assessment of her self-care prior to the pandemic, she probably would have scored very low in every area. But because now she has the time, she's focusing inward. And that has made a huge difference in her ability to, one, have the time and assess the way she was spending her time before this. Mm-hmm. And I mean, literally, like right before we got on this call, that was what I just read.
Well, and it's kind of like we can transplant ourselves, you know what I'm saying, and still be rooted. Like if our old reality, she doesn't want to go back into that old reality.
That's what she said.
Like, because she's like, wait a second, I'm different now. So I don't want to become all flippy floppy again and unfocused. So that may require some people to transplant themselves out of their reality into something different. And you can absolutely do that with a lot less fear when you know that your internal compass has pulled you and has given you the indicators that this has to look different, because we've been ignoring the fact that we don't feel happy where we are. Who wants to have unhappy roots and be stuck in something and be immovable? You know what I'm saying? If the soil isn't healthy and there's not enough nutrients, then we need to be able to pick up our best self-health and plant ourselves somewhere else. You know, we are still embodied in our total selves, no matter where we choose to inhabit.
And that is a part of it too, just understanding that the need for that, if nothing else has come out of the worldwide timeout, is that self-care, taking those moments, taking the time to journey inward and do the internal work. Many of us are unable to escape ourselves now, so we're having to do that work.
Well, I definitely want to key into the fact that abundance does not just look like money. You can have all the financial abundance, have terrible health, terrible emotional health, terrible personal relationship. Now, you might have all that and have all the other things too, but we need to also shift how we see abundance, because then we'll be even more rooted. Because if our financial things become unstable, that's a big challenge for most of us, that causes us to have like an existential crisis, like, who am I? I'm not even working, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can be very significant when we're faced with economic abundance challenges. But there's so much more. You know, the timeout has said, giving people opportunity to say, you know what, I had abundance of Uno nights with my kids the last 6 months, and we've been playing checkers and games, and we've been having abundance of cooking nights together.
Abundance of laughter.
Yes.
Joy.
Yes.
You know, fun.
Yes.
Remember fun?
Yeah, valuable things, things that have more value to our energetic state than money does, you know. So abundance is not just about the fruit that falls off the tree, right? So
Absolutely.
Now, this last card was the kicker that was like, oh, okay, Spirit, how much more direct can you be?
Oh, spirit of gratitude.
And it's a 743, which is a 7, as you know. And I love it because
Flower.
it's in a teacup. Now, I'm not a tea person, as you know. I've been struggling with not drinking caffeinated coffee with creamer since I've been non-dairy, as we've been doing my health stuff. So, you know, I've had to have a new relationship with tea, but it has turned into something that is like a wonderful part of my morning, just like my
Yes.
morning coffee was. Let me just say, my morning coffee was everything. But it's turning into something that I love, and it's certainly more healthy for me. But I love that this lotus was blooming out of a cup of tea. I said, oh, this is just perfect.
I love it. I love it. I love tea. You know, that's my thing.
I know. So, and then we have the lotus flower, as you, let's see, can you see well, I have a lotus in my little hands there. I mean, there's lotuses everywhere, all around.
I have some here too.
Yes, yes. And we know it's all about the flowering of the consciousness and the crown chakra and compassion. And pink is compassion, you know, the compassionate love that is unconditional. So I love seeing that as well. So it really does look like the sun at the center of the day.
It does.
So that's like our soul, our solar self flowering into consciousness, which I just love.
I love it. Love it.
I said, well, you know, I wish that, well, I do live readings so people can see me as I'm like in real time. I'm not planning any of this. This is just the synchronicity and being in the flow and being receptive and open to receiving these kinds of affirming messages. It makes it so much more fun. And then it's like affirming that you're doing the right thing, working on this right now. And you're telling your clients the right thing at the right time because you see evidence of the manifestation in real time with the thing that you trusted yourself to do with me as a
absolutely.
I love
absolutely. Yes, because every person has unique needs. And it's so interesting with someone like you who is very spiritually open. It's so interesting that, you know, and so in my journey as a wellness coach, it's like, okay, I have to also connect in that space in order to find what is for you and what is going to keep you moving forward on your wellness journey.
Oh, not too challenging. This is the part where I'm comfortable. Is the other part, that the coaching really comes in. But I love because spirit also, I know myself from the higher down. It's like this is what's making me like, oh, okay, let me pay attention to this differently.
Exactly.
And engage differently, whereas it helps me move through some of my stuckness.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So I'm like, thanks for making this fun.
I know, I'm enjoying it as well.
All right, so spirit of gratitude. In prayer, we connect directly to our higher power. It is a way for us to be in communion with the divine, a reminder that our lives are a sacred conversation we're continuously engaged in. Prayer lets us know that we are not alone. A power greater than us acts on our behalf and is activated through us, suffusing our hearts and minds with a faith that is life affirming, loving, and compassionate. When we pray, we acknowledge that we are only part of the equation of life, that a spiritual aspect is always in operation. We engage in humility, knowing we are in a co-creative partnership and have so much to be grateful for. Expressing gratitude and asking to be of service is the most powerful, prospering prayer of all. What you focus your attention on, appreciation for even the smallest aspects of your life, and what you have already experienced. It's like waving a magic wand. Everything you need comes to you without effort. Obstacles fall away and your purpose becomes ever clearer. The kind of prayer that will prosper you and others today is one of deep, abiding gratitude. You become a magnet for miracles when you are grateful and asked to be a channel for divine purpose, divine abundance, love, and compassion. The power of Source is within you. Now is the time to awaken it.
Mm.
I love that. You know, we talked yesterday in our yoga practice about prayer and meditation, right? There's like two parts of the equation, if you
They
will,
are.
right? So prayer is the conversation, meditation is the stillness to receive awareness of that
Yes.
conversation. But
Yes.
a lot of times the way we've been taught to pray is that we pray and we ask things in this direction, and then we
Mm-hmm.
wait for the answer passively, to come. Of course, many of us prayer, we thank God, we've learned, to do things through our religious and spiritual practices back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
but shifting out of like memorized prayer into like a really heartfelt,
Conversation.
casual. It doesn't even need to be like this, or you know what I'm saying? It's just
Mm-hmm.
the upward connection, the delighted laughter, the joyful feeling that you allow to bubble up in yourself when you experience these gratitude moments.
Yes.
Writing that list is like it should make you smile. It should make you
Absolutely.
giggle and like feel so much lighter when you get done writing
Yes.
it, because you're like, wow, that was so much fun. Oh, that
That
was
was so
so
much
great. They were so
fun.
nice. Thank you for that delicious food I made today. Like you're
Yes.
going through, it's like life is pretty awesome. I have
Yes.
a lot to be grateful for.
Yes. Even in the worldwide timeout, life is pretty awesome. There are so many things that we overlook trying to attain. Like you said, going back to abundance, trying to acquire things instead of trying to connect within. We had this conversation yesterday about chasing money over chasing meaning. And that part is, I think, what a lot of us are having to grapple with right now. We've been chasing money and putting so much of our own internal work at risk, so much of our own internal work off to the side and in the corner, or pushing down all of the things that we really want to push forward. And so it's very interesting when you have the opportunity to sit in gratitude and just look at all the things, all the blessings, all the connections that have come to you, and saying thankful and being thankful for them. Because again, the idea is to always turn the gaze to what you need, what you want.
Right.
And sometimes not even understanding the difference between needs and wants. Gratitude really does help you sift through all of that and helps you understand what you're here for. How can I continue to give and serve for all that I've received?
Right.
And that part, I think, is being missed sometimes.
Well, and I think many of us have also had a part of the judgment programming that we kind of talked about before. We tend to judge things from a lack perspective.
Yes.
Ourselves, our reality, our abundance, the things that we got. Well, I got this, but I was going for that.
Or the comparison trap.
Yeah. So we can feel lack that isn't there, and then not necessarily feel gratitude. And sometimes we can also feel that kind of suffering servant gratitude. I'm just thankful for my health. Lord, you know what I'm saying? We've all been around people who are.
And not understanding that there are some people out there who don't have health of body. There are some people out there that can't get up and give because they can't get up.
Right.
But you can, being grateful for the fact that you get to use these hands, to use this heart, to use these legs, to carry you someplace to serve or to give or to be who you're here to be. That is something that gets overlooked, you know. I mean, we get over this thing real quick, right? You know what I mean? You're like, oh, it don't look like I want it to look. It doesn't do what I want it to do. And then there are people in this world who can't do any of those things.
Right.
And we forget that.
Right. I will say that one of the things that might be challenging for people, especially with the great time out and then all the things that come forward this year, it is okay to be grateful for your path. If your path did not lead you to the tragic loss of your child or family member, if your path did not lead you to the loss of your income or job.
Your job, yeah.
Some people, it's very easy, not even some people, myself included, it can be very easy to not feel like okay about being grateful because other people don't have as much. They don't have. And so we feel wrong for feeling that joyful moment of, whew, you know what I'm saying?
In the midst of what's going on. It's very, I think so. It's that, it's almost like the survivor's remorse, right?
Yes, that's the word.
We're feeling like because we're not in these moments destitute, or in these moments we're still able to, you know, have lights, and I'm still able to have yoga and clients and people who still want to spend their time working on themselves, that feel guilty about having the ability to do that. And I'm like, I don't think that's the point, you know, that, you know, gratitude is really about being thankful for what you're given and being a good steward of it, and not just throwing it away because there are others who may suffer. And understanding that though there are people who may suffer, then finding a way in your grateful heart to serve, you know, to serve people who are suffering, but not just worry internally about things that you're not planning to change.
Right. Well, or you can't change, you know, that like
well,
you can't
change.
bring other people's loved ones back, or, you know, it's like the compassionate urge in us has us identify with people deeply in their experience. But when you transplant yourself out of your experience into that experience, then that's where an imbalance will happen, right? So being okay with the joy that you have, you are meant to experience what you have present because you created it for yourself in that. One of the ways that I work with my feelings about sorrow and grief for people who I see experiencing grave injustice or tragedy, disasters, loss of loved ones, loss of body function, all these things, is that I really am grateful for them, because their soul, you know, every person who has, like, say, a crippling disability or something like that, I can learn. I got to experience through them and through them exposing me to what it was like to
walk in their shoes.
So I am always very grateful. You know, I went to Oklahoma City a few years ago and I went to the bombing memorial. And one of the things that I did was just walk through all of the chairs that they sat for all the children and adults that were killed. And I just walked to and I gave thanks to each one, because I know that their souls agreed to be an experience, just like my soul agreed for me to be this experience right now of being your client, of being Joelle, of being the Viberarian. My soul agreed to do that. And for some people, that's a very challenging statement, because you say, well, how could somebody agree to be murdered to be raped, to be killed. How do souls? Well, see, souls are from a higher aspect, right? So
Right.
for every Jewish person that died in the Holocaust, so that we could bear witness to the fact that Holocaust happened, for
Yes.
every George Floyd
Yes.
and Breonna Taylor and
Yes.
Ahmaud Arbery, and the
Yes.
list is entirely too long. But for every one, I give a gratitude, because had it not been for them, we would not see what it is like for a person to have lived a life that was ended so abruptly. So
Yes.
I, at a most basic level, I have to be thankful for that. I'm not thankful they're gone. Certainly, that's like
Oh,
the energy of it, but thankful that their soul undertook that particular task to do that. And I only can believe that their suffering was alleviated at the moment of their transition, and that
yes.
their family members and loved ones will in some way grow through that loss
And
into
then,
a different,
and I come at it from a mother aspect. I mean, I found myself through this last how many years of tragic loss of Black men's lives and Black women's lives. And most, watching these Black men's lives be taken so abruptly, and it I have to exercise two things. I have to continue to exercise my faith over fear, because I'm a mother of two sons. And what do you tell them? What do you say? How do you prepare them for a world that is unjust and that is horrific, and that is also a world that allows them to be fully present and fully who they are here to be?
mm,
It's so complex in a lot of ways. And then I have to say, the gratitude practice in my life gives me the opportunity to cherish my sons even more,
mhm,
to have the opportunity to say to myself that I can't take who they are for granted, that I have to be grateful for the time that I have with them. And for a lot of Black mothers, that feels like it could be way too short. And so honoring that gratitude practice, even in that space, and
mm,
saying, I'm grateful for every single day of my youngest son's 18 years and my oldest son's 20 years.
mhm,
And it has enriched my life. It's made me a better person. It's been great to witness them becoming the beings that they're here to be, the lives that they've touched, the abilities for them to be fully themselves at
mhm,
an age where, when I was 18 or 20, I didn't have the level of awareness that
mhm,
they had. I didn't have the level of internal fortitude that they had. I didn't know myself as well as they do. And so it gives me the opportunity to be grateful for being a mom and being able to witness these lovely beings growing into adulthood.
mhm. Growing into their strong, powerful trees. But you gave them that foundation of going within. So when you see them becoming strongly rooted, that that meditation practice that your son exercised when he was in first grade,
Yeah.
he was rooted in himself enough at that point to say to his teacher, excuse me, church finger. I
The
need to
church finger go up.
here. I need to go into, but that rootedness, you know what I'm saying? And so again, that gratitude
Mhm.
practice is so connected with that
Yes.
stillness, so there's so many aspects that we can continue, and as we should be able to talk ad infinitum about gratitude, where there should
Yes.
be like an unending conversation about
Yes.
gratitude. And I do know I'll be things are coming real fast right now. I've got several subjects that I want to do some more conversation
Yes.
about, and so grateful Great and full is basically the topic that came to me in my meditation last night. So I'm sure I'll have something very soon. And as soon as we get off, we're going to actually start our weekly coaching session, and I will have a new assignment. And
You will.
I'm so excited to see what's going to come out next, because this has been a fun addition to my wellness program, and I am very grateful
I'm grateful.
to you for being that friend and role model. For one, you practice what you preach, right, and live your out inside out with all that you're doing. And that is my vibe. We're all in the good vibe tribe, vibe attracts tribe. So, I'm just overflowing with a delighted feeling of, this is fun. I get to do this, and it really benefits me in the end in like multiple ways, body, mind, and soul. I'm receiving such benefit. I'm like, really? I get to do this? This is so great. How much fun is it? Like, thank you for my life and for this experience right now. And I hope that is, I know it's infectious, and so I hope that it's infectious to you as well.
It is. It is. I'm always excited for our sessions, because there's so many things that do come up that align with who we are as spirit, as intellectuals, as well as physical beings. So it's always exciting.
I also want to say, when I was in college, we didn't have like a self-care assignment in my health and wellness. I think we played volleyball, and I might have taken step aerobics or something one semester. And I think I had 2 semesters of health, and then that was it.
I took ballroom dance.
Oh, I would have loved to take that. See, you went to UGA, I went to CAU, so ballroom dance was not in our curriculum.
Ballroom dance. It was amazing though. It was a great experience.
I would have loved that. I would have signed up for it way before I would have signed up for volleyball. But no, that goes to speak to, your sons are like the age of these college students. And so to know that they're coming in with a different energy, a different practice, a different focus on what health and wellness means, that includes things like self-care and meditation and mindfulness and wellness instead of just nutrition and health, so I love that shift, and it makes me grateful to be here in this now.
It does. It really does. I'm very grateful to teach the class and teach this course to young people, because we are a multitude of things, as we've mentioned, and getting to assist young people in a way that helps them see every slice of that pie, what areas are not as fortified, and what areas they need to build up, and what areas they already have as strengths, and how do they continue to grow that strength. It's a beautiful course to teach.
Yeah, so you're pretty grateful too, right?
I am.
Right? Oh, well, Tiffany, for all of you are watching, this is Tiffany Campbell with I Love My Temple Yoga and Wellness Center. And I'm so glad to be your friend and client. And I thank you for your time this afternoon for this delightful conversation. And
thank you
as
so much.
Always, the light in me honors the light in you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Well done.
Hold on.